The verse of the day is Psalms 37:4, and it says, "Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you your heart's desires." Today's verse is one of my favorite verses. It falls right after my number one, which is Romans 12:2, because I think when I grew up in my perception of God and following Jesus, and I didn't even know what following Jesus meant, but the way I viewed it was, oh, if you have to follow God, you have to live a really hard, painful, non-enjoyable life. I think the verse that says dying to self and picking up your cross and dying daily, if you don't really fully grasp what that means, it can feel like a miserable situation, right? It can feel like, why the heck would I want to do that? But really, once you gain the understanding that doing that births the identity you were always created to live out, everything changes. And today's verse I love because it just highlights the fact that your desires are put in your heart by God. Today's verse can also be taken out of context a lot. And you might be like, okay, well, if I have any desire, does that mean it has to come true? And that's not necessarily the case. I think today's verse could be confusing to someone when you're also reading the verse that says, don't follow your heart because your heart is deceiving. I don't remember where it is in the Bible, but it talks about how the human heart is deceiving and how you shouldn't trust your heart. There is such a balance, so let's get into it. It's funny, I think with every single explanation, I always have to go back to what Jesus did, right? Because that's the whole point of everything. So before you met Jesus, before you accepted Jesus into your heart, you did not have power over sin because you did not have the Holy Spirit to help you overcome that sin. And we were born into a sinful world, right? Your sin is not your identity, but it's what we have to fight every single day. And so God knew that we needed Jesus in order to be free from sin, in order to have our identity be restored, in order to reverse the curse on humanity that was brought into the world when Adam and Eve fell short. The reason why without Jesus your heart is deceiving is because you don't have the power to overcome sin that grips your heart. And so you can't necessarily trust your heart at all moments because you're gonna have feelings of resentment, anger, frustration, unforgiveness. You're going to do things in your sinful nature that is going to make your heart believe certain things and do certain things that might not be in alignment with truth. So pre-Jesus, you didn't have the power to have your heart be transformed to align with God's heart because you didn't have the Holy Spirit. But once you accept Jesus into your heart, you now have access to the Holy Spirit. That Holy Spirit will transform your heart to be more in alignment with God's heart on a daily basis. The more you pursue God, the more your heart will look more like Him. And it's through the journey of relationship. And this is why I harp so heavy on relationship, because it's the whole point. The whole point is to be in relationship with God, because through relationship, your heart changes. Through relationship, you experience unconditional love. Through relationship, you start to become who you were created to be, why you're on this planet. And so God can now trust your heart because He has His heart living within yours. And so if things happen on a daily basis and you're growing with God and you're pursuing God and you're in a relationship with God, God can trust that you're going to pick up what He's trying to tell you on a daily basis, because He's going to be communicating to you every single day, all day. And if you're pursuing Him, you're going to start to learn how to hear Him more quickly. You're going to start to learn how to be like, oh, I'm feeling resentment and anger. Lord, can you help clear my heart? Can you help soften my heart? And you're going to go to God when you're feeling sin grip your heart. When you're feeling sin knock at your door, you're going to have a way out because of God, because of the Holy Spirit. I can't tell you how many times, you guys, my heart has felt hardened and I've run to God and I've been like, Lord, soften my heart. Lord, help me to get rid of anything that's preventing me from feeling free and feeling love and loving people well and loving myself well and you well. I pray you would break off any resentment, unforgiveness, and just covering the bases so that your heart can remain pure, so that your heart can remain in alignment with God's heart and in alignment with love. I know that was a long intro, but I think it was necessary for today's verse that says, take delight in the Lord and He will give you your heart's desires. So what's taking delight? Taking delight in the Lord is being in relationship with Him, is pursuing His heart, is enjoying relationship with Him and running to Him on any given day about everything. And through that process, just like how I explained, if I'm feeling a hardened heart, I run to God and I'm like, Lord, soften my heart. Help me to be free. Help me to be full of love. That is me taking delight in the Lord. And through that process, my heart is being refined to stay in alignment with His. This is why God is able to give us our heart's desires, because our desires become His desires. He puts desires into our heart because the Holy Spirit is now living within our heart, right? I love how I'm over here when my heart's over here. But our desires are able to come to pass with the Holy Spirit and through relationship with God, because God can trust that you are pursuing His will, you're pursuing His heart. So He's going to give you desires. So your desires become His desires, which means if you're having a desire and it's in alignment with God's will and in alignment with God's heart, it's just a matter of time. The reason why today's verse can be easily taken out of context is because it's not just going to happen to anyone. It has to be someone who has the Holy Spirit dwelling within their heart, who is doing life with God on a daily basis. Because like I said yesterday, things are going to come at us every single day. The devil will try to lure you away from your original design and alter your heart and take you away from love and away from God every single day, especially if you're pursuing Him and you're discovering new layers of who God is and your heart is really changing and you're on fire for God. You can expect that the devil is going to try his hardest to get you to stop and to detour you, because he's intimidated by who you're becoming. He's intimidated by what you can accomplish with God on your side, because once you pursue the heart of God and you do life with God and His desires become yours, that means you're going to start to accomplish the impossible, because anything is possible with God. So your dreams get bigger, which means you're going to impact the world on a bigger level and you're going to bring more love into the world. And the devil doesn't want that. This is why it's so important to be honest with God in your journaling and tell Him all of your desires. Because once you give Him all of your desires and you're still putting Him first, so there's a balance of giving Him your desires and trusting Him with it, that He gives you what's best for you. But if you don't give Him everything, then He can't refine the parts of you that need refining. So this is why our desires can change, right? Because God molds our heart and changes our character, which helps us change what we want to do and what we want to see come in our life. So the more you delight in Him, the more you pursue relationship and prioritize Him, God's desires become yours. So honor your desires and take one step at a time. If you have God first, everything else will come into place and He will honor the desires of your heart because they came from Him. Okay?